3, 2, 1. Oh, fuck. Oh, God. Oh, I gotta chase that shit. Oh.
That was awesome.
Oh, Kentucky Deluxe. Oh, Jesus. Ugh. Oh, welcome back to the Rocky Mountain Skeptic Society podcast. We have all kinds of new shit going on. So, first, new in the podcast, the news.
That was some stinking news.
Anyway, we have the news where we quickly cover a couple stories, whether it's negative or positive. It doesn't matter. It's just going to be one of those free-form sort of deals. Bad Cop of the Week. That's going to be probably my favorite. What do you guys think about Bad Cop of the Week?
I think it's going to be intense.
Intense. So intense.
I think it'll be informational because I think it's some stuff that
Dude, I
never hear.
got story after story after story after story of bad cop stories. So they're not going to be, not all of them are going to be present. Some of them are going to be from the past because they're still relevant. Doesn't matter. But I will make sure to try to put the date on there. That way people know when this happens. And then we have a special segment called State of the State, where it's a segment discussing government overreach, government action, anything involving the government, and how it affects us liberty-loving people and what we can do about it. And I think today's segment's actually probably going to be a pretty damn good one.
I would have to agree.
And then after all that, we have the after show, which is going to be aired on a separate episode where we take off the ties and belts and let our gut hang out. We just kind of bullshit about whatever. I think some of the problem we had in our last podcast, or the first 4 episodes, were we didn't know where to differentiate between the fun shit, the serious stuff, and it kind of went back and forth. And I feel like I'd like to cut it down the middle, put half the pie in the important stuff, half the pie in the fun stuff, because we like pie.
I actually don't like pie.
What is your favorite kind of pie? If you have one.
I don't like pie.
Don't?
My least favorite would be pumpkin pie.
Oh, see, I was gonna say
that's
pumpkin pie with like a heavy dose of whipped cream.
You gotta do apple pie too.
Apple.
Anything that's
disgusting.
chocolate. I mean, that's always good too.
Chocolate pie.
They got the chocolate pies at fucking Village Inn.
Yeah, they're like a chocolate mousse pie.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They got a Reese's Pieces one. There?
What about Oreo pie? Have you had that shit?
Oh yeah.
Oh my fucking god, it's so good. All right. Well, anyway, we're gonna get into the news, and we'll start that now.
Fake news.
Okay, so apparently Hasbro decided to make a Monopoly game based on socialism. Now, the funniest part about this is that socialists picked this up thinking it was going to be pro-socialist, right? Because the original Monopoly was kind of a stab at traditional capitalism, right? Well, the difference here being that this game is pretty anti-socialist. So I'll read you some of this here. I'm trying to find who it's from.
I think it's from Hasbro.
I want to think it's from MSN. Let's see. When the players pass go, they're given a $50 living wage as opposed to the usual $200, and the tokens are all dated artifacts like a typewriter, phonograph, pocket watch, an old-fashioned telephone, and an old TV set. Get ready for laughs as the twists and turns of life put the damper on the working toward a shared utopian society, the description says. Monopoly socialism reads, cooperation isn't always what it's cracked up to be. This is fucking hilarious. And if you look at the Amazon reviews, it is absolutely stunning how many negative reviews it has from people that are like, oh, it doesn't even get socialism right. You read, Lorna, you read most of those, right?
Oh yeah, people were amazingly mad about how bad the game was, and it does sell for $99 on Amazon. Anyone who wants to actually go buy it, which I have considered.
I was going to say, that's actually kind of tempting.
Well,
we could play it live on a podcast.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. I think the problem is, so Target sold it originally as a very exclusive product for Target. and they pulled it off the shelves the second people started complaining about it. And yeah, so they're fetching good money right now for one of those game boards.
Yeah, but sadly, we're talking about Target, who now isn't wanting to have boys and girls sections separate. They want everything to be neutral.
Well, the other thing is too is that considering the limited supply, I bet you as time goes on, we're talking $300, $400, $500 a board. And what makes this one special is it's actually from Hasbro. It's not some knockoff or some copy. This is really what they think about socialism, and I think it's absolutely stunning. If you guys don't remember if you watch or listen to the first 4 episodes of the podcast, I'm not a fan of socialism.
I just think it's entertaining because I'm sure they probably got it a lot more closer and more accurate on how socialism actually really works. And they're like, oh my gosh, but that's not what we want. We want it to be our dream world.
Yeah. Now, there was one, it's like vegan meatloaf was like one of the community chests or something. I can't remember exactly all of them, but it caused a big old hoopla. Anyway, so there's some guy, some educated individual from college, obviously, he's some kind of professor, says that obviously, and I'm quoting here, obviously there are critiques of socialism, and people could say maybe the market is better at delivering certain types of services than the government. Mr. Kapur said, I'm trying to find his full name here. He is Nick Kapur, an assistant professor of the history of Rutgers University. So he says, obviously there's some critiques, but this game doesn't seem to be taking in those terms at all. It just seems to be saying that socialism is bad. It can make you poor. You got to give your money away constantly. And that's the biggest critique from the socialists that buy this game, is that it's just a bad representation of socialism. The funniest part, I think, about the whole thing is if you look at the cover, it's a dude with like handfuls of money giving it to the Monopoly guy. It's just a bunch of hands. It's fucking hilarious.
I'll post a picture on our Facebook page later.
Oh yeah, it's great stuff. All right, next story. Okay, so for some of you guys that like to watch Netflix and some of the bad stuff on there, we're talking bad stuff like lesbian, like Game of Thrones, girls always getting naked and stuff like that.
Who doesn't want to watch that?
Orange is the New Black is one of those shows. I think it kind of plays on everyone's needs for Netflix television style stuff. In the 5th episode of last season of Netflix's Orange is the New Black. God, it's so fucking hard to say. Maybe I'm getting buzzed already. I don't know. The character Maritza, I think I'm saying that right, who has been languishing about immigrant detention centers, finds out about a toll-free hotline where she can get a free lawyer. As she's rejoicing, another character, Gloria, cuts her off. Gloria warns Maritza, you have to be careful. Apparently, if they figure out you're using the hotline, Big Brother shuts it down. That's exactly what happened, advocates say, when Immigration and Customs Enforcement shut down a real hotline for detained immigrants run by the California group Freedom for Immigrants, less than 2 weeks after it was prominently featured on the show.
Oopsie.
This means some fat fuck watching Orange is the New Black, probably jerking off, right, to all these fucking women in the show, getting a power trip, right, saw this fucking phone number, and decided, well, I wonder on my free time if I can find out if it's actually a real number or not. And then went and took it to his supervisors. Can you fucking believe this shit?
In society nowadays, yeah, I can.
Look, I know some people are anti-immigrant. I'm definitely not. I think just fucking let them in. Don't give them any free shit. Just let them in. But the problem here is that you got some asshole watching a TV show that's based on fiction and going, I wonder if that number's real. Do these fucking people have a life? I mean, they're going, I don't know, you guys take over from here. This is fucking stupid to me.
I just think it's insane that he actually had to take his time and be like, oh, I wonder if the number's real, and actually call it and find out.
Hold on, you're being politically incorrect here. You're assuming genders now.
He, she, him, her, it, they, Z, whatever it is, this person, who I'm assuming is a human.
I just can't believe it. There's somebody on a TV show finds this phone number, and of course in the show it gives all these women hope. I actually saw that episode, and And the women start going to like the kitchen window and they start getting the phone numbers and they're like, please find me a lawyer, find my people or whatever, and they're trying to find representation. And it shows just how a very realistic, I think, representation of what really happens with some of these people, because they don't know the system here and they get here, maybe they're here a couple weeks, a couple months, and they get caught or they get caught right at the border and they don't know what the fuck to do. And they're trapped like animals. The only thing these people have done wrong, I know James is over there kind of stewing. He's boiling. He's not an immigration fan. But I think the only thing these people have done is cross an imaginary line. Looking for a better life and locking them up like criminals, I think, is absolutely unnecessary. But go ahead.
I think they should fully have access, just like any other criminal, to have someone represent them. And I think, you and me both know I don't care for a public pretender because that's what they are. They're a pretender, and I don't feel that they need to have a pretender for them as either, but they need someone to represent them. So I'm not against the whole idea. I mean, for me, my whole concept with it is, like I've told you before, is, I've worked in areas, big towns, Las Vegas, before immigration turned into such a big deal, there were times I couldn't find work. There wasn't a whole lot of work out there, and there were places that would take on anyone if you showed up. And I show up, and there's more Hispanic people there waiting to get a job. And the second I go there, I'm just looked upon like a piece of crap. And, I have bills too. But that's really what it falls down to. If they're over here and, say they didn't come here the correct way, and then say everyone they know does, and then all of a sudden we don't have enough work for them. So then they're taking work from other people that have been here their whole life. And that's kind of was my issue, because in Las Vegas at the time, it was before a lot of this. And I mean, you couldn't just go and get a job that easily because there were tons upon tons of people, and a good portion of them were illegal. And for me, it didn't make it that easy for me to get a job.
And I think that's a problem with people like you and I aren't formally educated. Right, we have a little bit of high school. We got our, finished off with our GEDs, and the problem is we're really the only jobs we can get are laborers.
Yeah,
we're hands workers, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that actually kind of presents more of a old school Americana lifestyle when you're working with your hands and you're working with grease and oil and machines. And the problem is, though, that it doesn't really take a whole lot of skill. You just got to have the dedication to work hard. And a lot of the guys that are coming from the South are definitely like that. So
and that's their whole culture. I mean, they don't have a whole bunch of high technology. They don't have I'm not saying they don't have them, but it's not as common here. You can go and get a desk job. I don't know that there's a whole huge amount of people that can get desk jobs in their country. So and it's not that I have anything against them. It's just we have rules, stipulations on how they should come here. I feel instead of them being arrested and just straight sent back, I think that there should be maybe options instead of just sending them right back. I mean, if, say, they get picked up for being illegal, have them prove that they've paid their taxes or that they're willing to go through the hoops. I mean, if you pick them up and you pick them up after they robbed someplace or they're doing something illegal, okay, sure, I can understand sending them back, but it's just to send them back without probable cause, I guess, in a way.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of what we're boiling down to is they're not. The whole premise of this news article is that they're not being represented and they're canceling out ways for these people to get help.
But what I want to sorry to interrupt you guys, but here's the thing: they do have options for representation. The unfortunate part is the fact that it is all put on them to be able to find those resources, and they are very limited on how they can even look for any resources for help. So
I guess before we end this section here, if you were a Mexican and you're here in this country illegally, and let's hope you can speak English and you can understand me, I would find somebody on the outside that can help you if something happens. Now, I'm not advocating for illegal immigrants. I'm advocating for making an imaginary line, not a crime to cross. Okay? Now, I understand where a lot of these conservatives come from. They don't want these Mexicans running up a bill, right, that the taxpayer has to pay for. They're getting housing and food stamps and whatever else, right? When when the state takes over. Now, I agree with letting them come over here with the equal opportunity that we're all given to work for whatever they want, starting from the bottom, working their way up, becoming full-blown citizens here. But with the system we have now, there's really no easy way to let that happen. So I kind of see both sides of the argument when it comes to either letting them in or shipping them back. But locking them up like criminals for months at a time with no representation is some serious bullshit. They need to have Mexican, Spanish-speaking lawyers online to help those people either get their citizenship or to send them back with an expedient process. Don't let them sit there and rot. Okay, these people haven't done anything other than cross, like I said, an imaginary line out in the desert. And they already face dangers and all the hardship of having to come all the way across the border. Don't lock them up.
The sad thing, though, too, is how many of those people have children who are born in the United States?
Oh, well, I'm hoping so.
And I do understand that they shouldn't automatically get, according to a lot of people. Personally, I could care less either way. If you're here, you're here. Just work, pay your taxes, do what you need to do. It's irrelevant to me. But these people who are locked up in detention centers with children, as a parent, I could not imagine the thought of being locked up in these horrible conditions with a child, or being separated from your children and your children sitting in separate holding cells. As a parent, how do you even cope with that?
So I know I hate to interject, but the cat's out of the bag. We're using our real names now. We had some aliases before, and that was just to kind of feel how popular we get or what happens to popular people when they get, I don't know. But I didn't feel comfortable using our real names. We're using our real names now. There's really nothing to hide. I was incarcerated as a child, 16 years old, put into a male prison. And it was terrifying. I'm not going to lie, even though it was small. And, I'm not going to say that for everyone sitting at this table. I think some of us have experienced exactly the same thing. But the problem there is that these kids are bringing over here are like 7, 8, 9, maybe even younger, 2, 3, infants even. And they're locking them up in the same fucking place. And even as a kid, even as a teenager, that's not the place to put people. You start putting people in cages, shit gets wild. You get primal, right? And then you actually make harder criminals, even if they aren't criminals to begin with. Okay, you take an innocent man, you put him in prison, he will become a criminal. There's no other way around it. And I believe locking these people up for nothing is kind of some serious bullshit. But okay, so I know we may have sounded ignorant or maybe uneducated on the subject of immigration, and that's kind of true. It's a very complex, complicated subject, even for liberty-minded people like myself, or your standard conservatives like James, or maybe your in-betweeners like Larna. We don't always know exactly what the right answer is, and that's why our country is in turmoil now. It's because there's such an influx of people coming in. Nobody knows what to do about it. Everyone's trying to do the right thing and be moral. And I understand that we may not know. So we're definitely going to have to revisit that on later episodes. It'll probably be a subject that comes up over and over.
Well, and to add to that, I think a lot of it is also in our society nowadays. Information is hoarded. I mean, the more you know, the more knowledgeable you are. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff, that isn't brought out and spoken of out loud a lot. I mean, that's kind of us with our one subject that we're going to do here shortly. That's something that's not really spoke upon a lot. And I think, that's kind of why it's a positive thing that we're trying to at least bring out some of the information that probably isn't being published as frequently.
Yeah, I think immigration, just like what we're about to get into, there are certain subjects I think people shy away from on purpose. They don't want to talk about it. It bothers them, keeps them up at night, and maybe they don't know how to articulate that conversation or necessarily how to organize their argument for or against a certain thing. And that's kind of what we're here for, because all three of us are pretty well diverse as far as most of our opinions are concerned. And the benefit is we're all good enough friends and family pretty much that I don't think it'll start an argument, but we're different enough where we can have conversations peacefully. And right now in this country, we need a lot of that. We need people to be able to sit down and have reasonable conversation about these things without getting violent or getting all worked up, right? So the next portion of the show, the state of the state. Are you guys ready for the state of the state?
The state of the state?
The state of the state. Let's do it. this is a subject that has been out for a while. It's definitely nothing new. The red flag laws. But I wanted to bring to light some of the dangers that are right around the corner, and I want people to be aware of how Orwellian this shit is. Okay. So first, let's talk about the FBI, who's wanting, or has been actually since July, monitoring social media for domestic threats in real time. And we're not talking like, oh, domestic threats, we need to call the police. We're talking domestic terrorism. We're talking putting American citizens in Guantanamo Bay and these other places where they're putting foreign terrorists at. They're looking to be able to charge American citizens with the same type of war crimes, the same type of conspiracy crimes that these people in the Middle East are getting for terrorist activities. Okay, so the American Patriot could be as terroristic as ISIS. Okay, you could be on the same page there. So let's get into this. The Federal Bureau, the FBI, has quietly been searching for private connectors who would gather and feed to law enforcement tremendous amounts of user data straight from social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The U.S. government needs real-time access to full range of social media exchanges to better fight terrorist and domestic threats, the FBI said in its request for bids, which was first reported by Wall Street Journal. Now, these social media sites are not giving up, okay? Now, I normally don't advocate for these sites because I think they're a bunch of left-leaning loonies, but for the most part, they are pro-privacy, okay? So, being a Liberty guy myself, I'm absolutely enamored by the fact that they're actually resisting the government plea to let them access all these people's private information. We're talking instant messaging, regular any exchange on social media. Okay. The FBI search began in early July. It calls for providers to give law enforcement agents advanced warning on violent incidents, as well as the ability to summon a given social media user's ID numbers, IP addresses, and telephone numbers, which will lead them right to your house. Okay. Now,
and I'm not a paranoid person, but people wonder why I don't link my phone number to any of my accounts.
People think I'm paranoid because I don't have any social media. None. Now, this isn't the reason why I got rid of it in the first place, but I'm glad I got rid of it when I did, because this is some scary shit. Okay? Now, you pair this with the current red flag laws. And if you guys want more information on that, you can go to our website, rmsspodcast.wixsite.com. Go on there and you go to the episode 5 show notes for the reboot, and you can see on one of the links there the Threat Assessment Prevention Program. It's the TAPS Act, which is trying to be, which is currently in legislation right now. A lot of these kind of pre-crime laws are trying to be pushed through as of now. And pretty much what this means is that the police will have a database of people they deem dangerous based on a prevention system, an assessment, a categorization, a classification of the people, where they kind of assess your behavior. Do you work late at night? Maybe you work long hours. Are you divorced? Do you own guns? Oh, no, you're a red flag law. Well, so you take like things like the prevention crime laws, the red flag laws, and then you take this FBI social media thing and you combine all this together, and what do you guys get?
Amazing nonsense.
Well, to me, it sounds like they're just trying to come up with more reasons to have their version of a legitimate reason to take stuff from you or to infringe on our benefits or our rights as United States citizens. I mean,
but that's
what
exactly
happens
what they're
when?
Doing.
Well, I mean, what happens when, say, Jeff works? He works hard. He's a single dad, and his ex comes back and decides she wants to all of a sudden be involved, and he said, okay, but you're going to have to go it at the right route. She gets pissed off and she decides, you know what? I'm just going to call him in on the red flag law and tell him that he's being domestically abusive towards me, and I think he has some violent thoughts towards me. And all of a sudden, boom, they show up to his house trying to steal, trying to take his guns, his freedom away from him. Well, most people, you show up at their house for no reason and all of a sudden you're trying to take their stuff. Most people aren't too happy about that. And I could see all sorts of negative things happening on that. And then the media or anyone else is going to turn around and throw that back on him, saying that, oh, well, see, he flipped out. He obviously wasn't stable. No, He obviously liked his freedom and didn't want to give up.
Yeah,
Look-
but there are so many cases, like even in Loveland just a few weeks ago, there was a kid who got suspended from school for just going to the gun range with his mother.
Loveland where?
Loveland, Colorado.
Okay. Listen, folks, this is part of the reason I decided to do a reboot. Okay. These kind of things really push me over the edge as far as stuff I can stomach. And what I see around me are people still worried about the football games, still worried about stupid shit. Doesn't make any difference to me, right? But this stuff is happening all the time and it's progressing. It's not just talk. Okay, these people are pushing legislation through faster than I can keep track of it. Okay, we have how many? 28 states now with red flag laws?
I thought it was 11.
I think there's 11 and there's 28 states total that either have them or you can actually, like I said in the show notes, that information is actually on there. I posted a link to a website that actually shows all the states that have them and which states don't. And here's the problem with a lot of this, okay? And we're going to talk about the advocacy of privacy from places like Twitter that are actually trying to defend their users. What bothers me the most is that this stuff is happening at such a fast rate. And like I said, nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's even worried about it. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to come up before anybody's prepared for this kind of shit. And it's going to start taking people left and right. And we're not going to see where these people go. They're just going to disappear. This is real, and I'm not just being hyperbolic. Some real Orwellian shit. You have to watch now what you say to anybody and everybody. And we're going to get into the clauses of these red flag laws. So let's talk about New Jersey, right? I read this morning. New Jersey has 5 different clauses for the red flag law that stand out to me, and a lot of places they're a lot alike as far as how these red flag laws are constructed. So the first clause is that the only 2 people that are really allowed to call the red flag on somebody is like a spouse or a family member of that like, or law enforcement, any law enforcement. Code enforcement, animal control, doesn't matter, right? Any law enforcement agency can red flag law you. The second part is that you have no defensive measures to protect your rights. However, if you try to red flag a police officer, you have to go through about 10 different channels in order to do so, to get them off the force and to get their guns taken. But at the same time, for us regular citizens, that isn't the case. And if anybody knows me well enough, I believe that the police officers in this country are a protected class. They are government pawns, and they get away with all kinds of shit. So that right there just illustrates more of that.
Which, I mean, that stands against everything people nowadays are pushing for. Everyone wants equality. How's that equal?
That's not equal at all, but we'll get into that here in a minute. The other part is they can destroy your guns before the time frame is up. So if you have 365 days where you can't have your firearms, they can destroy them on day 1. You'll never get them back. You'll get your privileges back, or so the so-called privileges, even though it's a right. They'll take your privileges from you. You'll become a non-privileged individual with firearms and all that. What do they call that? Shit. Anyway, you won't be able to go and buy guns, but after the first year, you'll be able to buy them. But they can destroy them in that meantime, and you won't get them back. You'll never see them again. And then, like I said, the whole due process thing. This is punishment without due process. You don't go to trial. You have to pay and fight. Oh, and your legal representation, whether you're poor or not, has to be provided by you. The state will not provide you defense at all. So if you're poor and you got a couple shotguns or something and the police come and take them and you want to take it to court, good luck. Okay, because now you need to pay for your own lawyer. They will not provide one for you. You don't have any Miranda rights because you haven't been charged with anything, because your due process doesn't exist. Okay, Colorado has this law, so any of my Colorado listeners, be aware this shit is active right now. Okay, and Colorado, they will come and take your shit, and 11 other states apparently. So be careful what you say, who you talk to. Your brothers in blue with badges are not your friends. Okay, I don't care how pro Second Amendment they claim to be. Okay, is either they'll fire them and replace them with somebody that will be willing to do the government's bidding, or those officers are just biding their time until, selfishness gets the best of them, and in order to keep their job, they're going to throw their friends under the bus, knowing that, So, what do you guys think?
I don't think it's fair. And even when Trump had, talked about this in a news release, his exact words were to a rapid due process. And he's not against it. he's basically putting it on each individual state to make their own laws about it instead of making something that is nationwide.
I feel bad for the guys that voted for Trump, including myself, because
I didn't vote.
the problem here is that you have a case of truly not being represented. Okay, he promised everybody that he was going to be pro Second Amendment. That's what won my vote. Because I believe, even though I may have lost my privileges, doesn't mean that the rest of the country, my kids, my grandkids, shouldn't have that right. I fucked up. It doesn't mean everyone else should suffer for what I did, right, in my family. So I find it very valuable to have an armed, polite society. And when I see it just trickling away from a president that has passed more anti-gun legislation than Obama did in 8 years. Okay, and this man hasn't even finished his first session, his first run in office. Okay, what bothers me is that when you vote for somebody, they're supposed to represent you based on their merits, based on the things they promised you in their campaign. And when you vote for them, they're representing your ideas. Okay, when they turn around and stick it back in your ass after you've already voted them in, that is not true representation. Okay, that is exactly what started the revolution in the first place. That exact thing. And what is everyone concerned about? Not this. They're not even worried about it.
Else.
I haven't heard a single thing about it from close friends and family. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't give a shit. But the apathy surrounding this whole situation is sickening. That's all I have to say about it, really. I mean, it's some scary shit coming down the pipe, and nobody seems to be panicked about it. And that's exactly how it happened in 1994. That's how it happened in Australia before they did the mandatory gun buybacks. They were all quiet about it.
But
And
I don't think people are as educated as they could be in even knowing what's going on with things. They're so head in the clouds that they don't really know politically what is even going on.
Well, I don't claim to be an ultra-conservative. I think voting for Trump and then watching what happened actually kind of pushed me. That's what inevitably gave the death blow to my loyalty to the Republican Party. When I talk to James, though, you try, right? You got a busy life. I don't expect everybody in the world to keep track of this shit. When I tell you things that he's done and said, and I have proof, like audio clips of words coming out of his mouth, how does that make you feel knowing you voted for him to represent your ideas and he's turned around and backstabbed every one of them?
It's disappointing. I mean, like you said, you trust or you put your faith into the person you vote for to follow through with what they promise. You know, I try to be a man of my word, and when other people aren't, it kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth. It's like, well, you know, that was real nice that you said all that stuff. I guess, you know, it was just that, words. You know, and for me, I'm not trying to sound like I'm paranoid with the whole issue, but to me, I just see it as another way of slowly taking more and more rights away from us. I mean, what keeps any law enforcement officer at this point to not be told, okay, well, you need to start forcing this law and pulling guns from these people? And how would we know that they don't have it set up to where the second they take them, they destroy them? So then all of a sudden a year comes down the road, all these people get their rights back that they should have never had really taken away from them, and all of a sudden all their stuff's gone. Well, in that same year, you have Walmart getting rid of all their firearms stuff because they seem to think that that's a bad thing to sell merchandise. And then all these other places follow the same chain and boat, and next thing you know, they can't replace half their stuff that was destroyed that they went out of their way to earn the money for and they don't get any reimbursement for it. I mean, it's to me, it's basically a law that allows them to lose their right, have their stuff taken, have their stuff destroyed, not replaced, and then keep them from being able to get more of what they enjoy. I know people that enjoy going shooting, not for the sport, not for anything else. It's a stress reliever. And for them to say it's a stress reliever, now all of a sudden they can lose their guns because they say they want to go out shooting because they're stressed. Oh my gosh. You know what? I just can't fathom how all of a sudden we have all these issues. When this country was created, we had firearms. Yes, there were muskets and stuff, but we have evolved from then all the way to now. How is now all of a sudden turned into such an issue to where, oh my gosh, he must have a mental condition, so let's take it away?
Look, This fight for Americans' guns has started since the 30s. Okay, and then you go on through the Hughes Amendment. There's a lot of literature you'd have to read through in order to understand all that. But this has been happening for a long time. It's a death of a thousand paper cuts. Okay, and what's happening is they're getting brave. They're getting impatient too, because this shit, I mean, it's realistic. People are getting shot. Okay, mass killings are on the rise. There's no lie about it, right? The difference now is that people have become comfortable by staying silent. Nobody's going out and rallying. And you know what? I may not see eye to eye with some of these Republican or patriot conservative groups or whatever, but when it comes to the Second Amendment, when they get loud, I can't help but be on their side when it comes to that. The Second Amendment is an important part of this country. It's just as important as the First. How am I supposed to expect the citizens of this country to defend every other right?
They can't, because the government's legalizing theft of whatever they feel necessary.
Sweetheart, they've been legalizing theft since taxes.
Well, that's my point, though. They keep legalizing more and more and more theft, taxes, red flag laws. It's all a legal way under the terms of the law to take things that they don't want their people to have.
It's hard for me not to push my borderline anarchist approach to this, but I understand that most of my listeners are probably not going to fall into that same boat. I got to understand too that it's a pretty radical idea from somebody that's been raised, growing up saying the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. I understand you guys. Some of you people have loyalty, but you have to wake up. Nobody is on your side. This, I guess, if you take anything from what this whole story means, it is nobody working for the state, meaning the government, is on your side. You are not being represented. The people that are meant to protect you are not protecting you. Okay? The freedoms they're supposed to protect and defend, they're not protecting and defending. And if you live in a county or a state that says, we're a sanctuary state, we're not taking your guns, we're not enforcing these laws, you are blind to think that they won't fire those people and replace them with other bootlicker cocksuckers that will do it. Okay? You are not safe. You may have bought a little bit of time living in a place like that, but eventually they will be replaced and they will bring in jackbooted thugs to come take your shit from you because you said something they don't like. Now, where I'm going to draw this all together is the fact that the FBI is now watching social media for domestic threats. What's a domestic terrorist look like to you guys?
It could be anything, I guess.
Let's talk about Timothy McVeigh for a second, right? He was a patriot. Right. He loved America. He loved the Second Amendment. He passed out bumper stickers before the whole Oklahoma City bombing for Second Amendment. He protested against the Waco massacre. Now, that sounds like just a regular activist to me. Now, he did go bomb, the Murray building, but I think I said that Murray building. Anyway, but if you were to say that anybody that sells bumper stickers for the Second Amendment that believes in guns, that didn't agree with what happened at Waco, is a terrorist now, and then they start using that from a law enforcement perspective to start issuing red flags to all these people, holy shit. That is political opposition and taking them out. That sounds a whole lot like what happened in Nazi Germany when Hitler took power. He got rid of, and Stalin too, they got rid of any political opposition, had them killed.
If you take away the firearms from everyone that would fight back, if they decide to step in, what are they going to fight back with? Pitchforks,
that's exactly my
knives, point. And nowadays we have technology, we have sound waves that we can shoot out to make people crap themselves. So what's going to keep them able to fight back?
I'm very pro-revolution. I think we need one. I think we need to fight back. I think it's time, right? The roots of liberty need quenched with the blood of tyrants. And when it comes down to what the government is doing is prevention. They're preventing that from ever happening. They're going to start going.
They're preventing themselves from losing their power that they have sought for and worked their way into having such a strong hold on. I mean, they say people seem to think that the government can't control the media. You know what? The government, I'm sure, has their fingers so far up media's ass that they might as well be string puppets.
It's all orchestrated opposition, right?
Exactly.
When you have all these people fighting and concerned over Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones special and not on red flag laws, or the fact that, look, even to my liberal Democrat friends that are listening to this, maybe Even if you don't have guns, the police will come into your house armed, expecting you to be armed as well. Okay? And when you make the slightest quick motion towards the cushion of your couch, or towards your dog's kennel, or towards the remote, or
Scratching your balls.
or towards your phone, they're going to put 2 in your chest, 1 in your head, because you went reaching for a weapon that didn't exist. This happens all the time. Look it up. Red flag laws kill innocent people, especially when they go to the wrong fucking house. Because if you think these guys are competent to find the right house, you got to be kidding yourself.
I mean, hell, if they trust GPS, you take GPS to get to my house, it's going to send you a mile down the road before my house. I mean, go for it. I mean, it's just...
Tom committed the murder, not me, officer. Oh, man. Okay, well, we're going to move on to the bad cop of the week. Yeah, I guess that's a good transition, huh? Look, like I said, before the bad cop of the week, I'm not going to say that I hate all law enforcers, okay? I believe rules are necessary, and I believe that reprimanding somebody for doing an immoral act is necessary, but the way is you just have to look up some serious libertarian shit. But I'm just telling you right now, I don't agree with the way law enforcers are structured now. I don't believe in how they act. The laws that they enforce is all bullshit. And I have, like I said at the beginning of the episode, stacks of horrible fucking stories that'll make you sick to your stomach.
And one thing I have to add, just to advocate showing that we don't have, that we're not 100% against cops or hate them. We have close family friends that in the past were police officers, and they themselves have even admitted that when they were in that same situation, yes, they were power hungry. They had that urge. What human doesn't have an urge when they have the ability to control a situation to not control it or not to go too far because they know they can? It is human nature for people to seek out power.
Right, and when you have all that combined with these red flag laws and these people screening social media, it only ends in one place, folks. It really does. All right, let's go on to the bad cop of the week.
I'm a police officer!
2 NYPD officers who have been convicted on charges stemming from a case involving taking turns raping a handcuffed 18-year-old woman in the backseat of a police van in Coney Island in September of 2017. Martins, 37, and Hall, 33, were arraigned on the first of a total of 50 charges, including first-degree rape, first-degree criminal sexual act, and second-degree kidnapping. This 18-year-old woman, who stood at 5 foot 3 inches, weighed just under 100 pounds, was handcuffed and raped in the back of an unmarked police van by 2 plainclothes officers for almost an hour. All of this in taking a physical bribe to let the girl go during a drug sting operation. The woman immediately reported the situation to the NYPD, and both officers were arrested. Now let's fast forward 2 years. August of 2019, both officers plead guilty to the crimes. But can you guess what their sentence was? 15 years? 10? What about 5 and some mandatory parole, huh? No. Probation. These fucking cocksuckers got 5 years of probation. And why? Because according to the Supreme Court judge presiding over the case, there wasn't enough evidence to convict or qualify the defendants beyond a reasonable doubt to pursue the rape charges. Also, according to the same judge, the officers' cooperation in the case garnered them some leniency. So now, against the recommendation of the prosecution team and district attorney, those charges were dropped. And by the way, the DA and the prosecution avidly tried to charge these officers with the rapes. The most disturbing part of this is what the judge said about the evidence and not qualifying. Not only is there video evidence of this woman being taken into and out of the police van at times listed in the initial investigation report, but the rape kit performed on the women presented 2 sets of DNA that matched the DNA of the officers. Of course, the fluid they tested was semen. How in the fuck does that not provide reasonable doubt? Yet the only charges brought to the officers during this trial was accepting a bribe. Small beans in comparison to aggravated rape. I mean, come on. These assholes knew they were going to get away with this rape. They left body fluid dripping out of this woman. They took no care whatsoever to cover it up or dispose of any evidence. What a sick display of moral disregard. This is clearly a sign of ill intent and confidence in their ability to get away with this using their special police status. And look, I don't want people listening to the show think I have some sort of anti-police vendetta. What really gets under my skin is the fact that these mobsters are immune to accountability for their actions. Hardly ever is a police officer convicted in a court of law for crimes they commit. If they were held to the same level of accountability as the rest of us regular cattle, I would only hate them half as much. They only become human to me when the badges come off. There are police apologists all over this country that probably think what happened to these officers was too heavy-handed. Some may even think the girl is the real criminal and that these enforcers are actually the victims. Had this been two regular guys who handcuffed a woman and raped her for almost an hour in the back of a van, they would have been hammered out in court. They would have easily gotten 25 years with a plea deal. No judge would have dropped half the charges based on their cooperation. These enforcers walked because they were loyal dogs to the very same court and government that appointed that same judge. Is it so hard to understand why I get disgusted at our law enforcers and the justice system in this country? Is it so hard to understand why I get so fired up about shit like this? I want a nation where special privileges aren't given to actors of the government. Anyone with a badge and a uniform is a privileged class in this country, and it pisses me off. It's obvious that these sickos go through special screening processes that most police departments implement, and I have a stack of stories like this one. This is not a rare circumstance, and it's far too often that these despot enforcers go rogue and are given a slap on the wrist for their crimes, while regular civilian serfs like us, charged with the exact same crimes, are given stiff, cruel sentences. Let's not talk about the burden of proof as well, becoming half as credible as the evidence brought by an officer, because pigs can't lie. Aren't these heroes in blue and badge supposed to be the epitome of morality? I think anybody with the intent to be an abusive officer can lie their way through an interview and right into a position of power that is brimming with opportunities to abuse the people of this country. It comes down to this, really. The enforcers of this country are a privileged class, just like whites were in the days of American slavery, loyalists in the days of British occupation, and just like the Nazis in the days of the Holocaust. The house is always betting against you, and the cards are stacked. When an officer good badge makes you a victim of his or her crime, expect no sympathy from a judge, justice, from the government, or any of its bullshit courts of injustice. Stay safe, my friends. Remember to always film your encounters with the police. It is your constitutional right to do so, and it could save your life and possibly your freedom.
And that wraps up our episode 5, the first one of our reboot. And just remember, we're all people. Everybody here has different opinions, different jobs in life, and everything like that. And sitting at home and talking about these things definitely benefits, and keep an open mind. And just remember, we're all striving for the same thing, which is liberty.
That sounds pretty good to me. Liberty. I think everyone has a different concept of liberty, but I'm pretty sure all three of us here are pretty hardcore when it comes to freedom.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's basically the main reason why I think a lot of us focus so hard on some of this stuff is because we don't want our freedom to be taken away.
I don't want anybody's freedom taken away. You know? I think everybody should be able to live however the fuck they want, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Who gives a shit?
It's just like the other day when you were telling me about the people in China.
Yeah. How sad is that? They're running around with signs saying, we need the Second Amendment. Okay, it's too late for those people.
But it's not. It's not too late for them. They're bringing it up. They're talking about it. They're trying to make progress.
That's true.
They're trying now.
Any movement forward is still a movement forward. Any strive for freedom and liberty is still a move forward.
Hey, man. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So with that, what's up?
Most definitely.
Yeah. So with that being said, everyone, you should try to live as free as you can, even if that means some civil disobedience with some of your local laws, we'll call them. Because remember, as Thomas Jefferson said, if a law is unconstitutional, it is your duty to disobey that law. That's not verbatim, but that's pretty damn close to what he said. So, all right, love you guys. Catch us with the after show. It will be, like I said, a whole other episode where we talk about all kinds of funky shit. So stick around, watch the after show. Bye, everybody.
I'll listen to it.
Don't forget, you can always reach us on Facebook or Twitter at RMSS Podcast. You can reach us on our website, which is www.rmss rmsspodcast.wixsite.com. And always on our email, feel free to reach out and send us an email on your thoughts or things that you think we should bring up at rmsspodcast@hotmail.com.
I know this reboot isn't going to be necessarily on iTunes or SoundCloud or any of the podcatchers right away. We're working on getting that set up. So for now, for all of you guys that are following us on Facebook or YouTube, keep tuned. Eventually, we'll post somewhere where you guys can find us on a podcatcher where you can download us. I am absolutely not opposed to anybody who wants to use like a YouTube downloader to download these podcasts and be able to listen to them outside of like an internet range or whatever. So feel free to do that. Use this information however you want, or the podcast. I don't care with copyright or none of that. So if you want to download it, put it on a disc, sell it. I don't give a shit. Love you. Bye.
Welcome back to the show. What are we doing? I totally forgot what I was supposed to say. I'm not even going to lie.
You're closing us out, remember? For our first reboot.
Oh, yes. We can edit all my crap, so.
Well, no. So, yeah, not the plugins and all that. We'll have to delete that part. Hold on.